Good day, class. My name is Mr. Ifeanyi Chukwu Anyora. I'll be taking you on C++ Object-Oriented Programming, OOP. I will do this at an introductory level, and in other classes, we'll push ahead. Okay, introduction. What is OOP? Of course, we know that OOP stands for Object-Oriented Programming. It is a programming concept that sees a program as interacting objects. That's how OOP. OOP is a programming model, or is a software development model that sees a system as objects that interact. Yes, in the real life, every system is a combination of components that interact to meet a goal. So object-oriented programming sees software development from the perspective that objects interact. It is the interaction of this object that produces the result that that particular system gives. So it's actually a programming concept. Not all languages are object-oriented programming languages. Like C language is actually not object-oriented. It is a procedural language. It solves problems by seeing functions. If it looks at a system, procedural programming languages or procedural concept sees a system as a set of functions. So in procedural programming, what we care about is the functions in the system. But in object-oriented programming, it is not just the functions in the system, rather it is the objects that perform the functions that we capture in object-oriented programming. In the programming concept, object-oriented programming allows you to store data and the functions that process the data into one entity. It allows you to store the data and the functions that process those data into one entity. So to create an object, you have to define the attributes and the methods of the object. When we talk about attributes, what are we talking about? We are talking about the characteristics or the properties of the object. The things with which you can define the object are what we see as attributes or properties of that object. It is what you use to describe the object. Different objects of the same class have different set of values. Yes, for instance, two cars. A car can be seen as an object. And what are the properties of a car? A car has a color, a car has a make, a car has model, a car has number of tires. Different cars have different number of tires. So you see that these attributes, the values of these attributes make one object to be different from another object. For instance, student is actually an object. A student is an object. A student has a name, a student has a math number, a student has a department, a student has date of birth, a student has a class level. But no two students can have the same values for all of this. Yes, two students may have the same department. Yes, for instance, students in electrical electronics engineering are in one department. Yes, a class, they are all in one level, HND2 or whatever. But when you talk about name, there's every likelihood that most of the students will have different names. There is possibility that two students may have the same name. But when you now talk about the math number, no two students have the same math number. Two students might have the same date of birth. But you see that when you combine all the attributes together, there is no two students that will have all the attributes as the same. So that what makes it is the values of an object, the values of the attributes of an object is what makes each object unique, because the set of values will usually be unique when you combine them together. So we talk about attributes are the characteristics or the properties of the object. They are usually represented as variables in programming. Yes, they usually come as variables. The attributes or properties usually come as variables. Then the methods of an object define the functions or the actions an object can perform. The methods of an object defines the functions or the actions an object can perform. For instance, a car can start, a car can drive, a car can stop. So when you want to define the method of a class car, you have to look at the thing that the car can do. If you are talking about a student object now, what can a student do? A student can pass, a student can fail, a student can change his level. Yes, a student can change level from HND1 to HND2. These are possible things a student can do. A student can write exam, a student can go to class. These are, if you are writing a student class, these are some of the things that will form the methods of the class. So it is worthy to know that attributes are usually in noun form. They are usually in the form of noun. They are items used in describing a person or an object. So they are in noun form. Why the method? Because methods are usually actions. Methods are in verb form. Methods are in verb form, while attributes are in noun form. So you have to understand how to abstract and define attributes and methods of an, or that is your understanding how to abstract and define attributes and methods is fundamental in object-oriented programming. I think there's an error in the note here. It should be understanding how to abstract and define attributes and methods is fundamental in object-oriented programming. It allows programmers to develop programs that mimic real-world entities. So let's move ahead. How do you create a class? If you want to create a class, remember, it is the class you use to define the object. Before you can have an object, you must define the object. Just like before you can build a house, you must have a building plan. It is from the building plan that the house is created, or what we can say is from the building plan that the house is instantiated. So when you want to create an object from a class, you say that you have instantiated that class. Therefore, we can say that an object is an instance of a class. An object is an instance of a class. So how do we create an object? I mean a class. How do we create a class? To create a class, here is the syntax. The first thing you will have is the class keyword, followed by the class name, the name you want to give the class. For instance, you want to create a class called account. You want to create a class called account. Your code will come as class should be in small letter, class account, and the account usually, the class name usually starts with capital letter, okay? Then after that, there's what we call access specifier. Access specifier. Access specifier is a way of declaring how the attributes and the methods of a class can be accessed. How the attributes and the methods of a class can be accessed is what we consider as access specifier. So after the class name, the next thing that usually follows is the class specifier. Then after the class specifier, you now begin to list your attributes or your properties. So the order is the name of the attribute, the data type of the attribute, the name of the attribute, followed by the data type of the attribute. Then access specifier again, probably if the access you want to grant to your attributes is going to be different from the access you want to grant to your methods. Yes, you may have multiple access specifier, different access specifier. So that's the idea I am using here. The first access specifier is for the attributes. That is to define how the attributes can be accessed. Then we have the access specifier for the methods. So the method is actually a function. That was why we've treated function before, or we have treated function in class. But the method is actually a function, and this is the syntax of a function. A function has return type, followed by the function name, or what we call here method name, then followed by parameters, then we have the method body or the function body. So then at the end of the day, you'll see that there is an opening brace for the class, and then the closing brace for the class. So at the end of the class, you have a semicolon. At the end of the class, you have a semicolon. This is the opening brace, and this is the closing brace for the class, not for the method. For the method, this is the opening brace for the method, this is the closing brace for the method. It's different from that of the class. This is the opening brace for the class, and this one is the closing brace for the class. It must end with a semicolon. So, like I said, class is a keyword for creating a class. It is written in lowercase. It is followed by the name you want to call your class, which usually starts in uppercase by convention. The access specifier specifies where one can access the class attributes and methods from. We have three basic access specifiers. And what are they? One is the private access specifier. When you declare a member method or a member property, that is either if you are declaring the attributes or the method as private, what you are saying is that you can only access those attributes or method from within the class. That is, it can only be accessed from within the opening and the closing brace of the class. If you go outside the closing brace of that class, you cannot have access to that attribute. When you declare an attribute or a method as private, that attribute can only be accessed from within that class definition. Then you can declare an attribute or a method to be public, and that's just the opposite of private, meaning that you can access that attribute or method from within and outside the class. You can access it from within and outside the class. There's a third one which we are not going to look at. We are going to look at it later in class. By the time we'll be talking about something like inheritance, which is a feature of object-oriented programming. So when you declare an attribute to be protected, it means that it is accessible within the class definition and from within inheriting classes. Inheriting classes. That we're going to look at protected when we talk about some features of OOP. One of the features of object-oriented programming is encapsulation, which means hiding the class attributes to ensure controlled access. Yeah, that's encapsulation. When you encapsulate something, that means you are hiding the thing. So by convention, it is usually good to hide the attributes so that people or persons cannot change them the way you don't want it to be changed. So therefore, what we usually do by convention is to allow the attributes, the properties, to be hidden. That is, we declare them as private, while the methods that we are going to use to control access to these attributes, we declare them as public. So let's look at an example. Let's think about a bank account as an object. If we think as a bank account as an object, we need to abstract the necessary attributes and the methods of an account object. Yes, in programming, most times, in object-oriented programming, everything is an object. Some objects are tangible, while others are abstract. Of course, when you do English language, you know what we call abstract noun. They are nouns that you cannot see, but yet they represent ideas. They represent ideas. So, because they represent ideas, they are nouns. So, most times in object-oriented programming, some of your classes will represent abstract nouns, while some can represent very concrete nouns, discrete nouns. So account, yes, is an object, is a noun. So many a times anything you can represent as a noun can come as an object in object-oriented programming. So we're going to be looking at account, bank account, as an object. So we're going to be checking out what are the possible attributes and the possible method, or what are the possible things we can use to describe an account, that is attributes, and what are the possible actions an account can do or can perform. Those are what we consider as the methods. So let's look at the attributes one after the other. Yes, an account has account name. Account has an account name. So the data type of the account name, of course, should be string, because it should be a set of characters. So one attribute of an account is an account has a name. Then the names character of an account or attribute of an account must have a number. Yes, and it should be string. Somebody will say, why not integer? Why not float? Why should an account number? Is it not numbers? Why should it be string and not float? But I want you to understand that account number is actually not really a number. It's not a numerical number. For instance, if somebody asks you for your number, you don't begin to say 10 million, this. No, you call the account as individual digits. That is why, yes, in numerical forms, numbers do not start with 0. But account numbers, some start with 00. And if you remove the 00, it is no longer the same number. But if you are talking about number as a value, 004 is the same thing as 4. But number as a string, 004 is not the same thing as 4. So because an account number can have 000 as the first 3 digits, therefore you can't make it a number. You can't make it float, because if you make it float, it will truncate every preceding 0. So that is why account number is considered a string, even though it contains numbers, but the numbers are not values. The numbers are just entities. They are just identity of an account. So that's why it is properly called a string data type. Then after that, we'll talk about the account type. Is it going to be savings account? Is it going to be current account or whatever? Account type is also string. Then the balance, account balance, yes, is a number. That's why it is declared as float. You don't see account balance as a string. It's a number, it's a value. So the balance is considered a float. So these are the 4 attributes we are going to be using in our example codes. Then what are the methods of an account? That is, what can an account do? What are the actions an account object can perform? 1, account can credit itself. An account can credit. So when an account credits, that means it's adding value to the previous balance. So for an account to credit itself means that it's an action it's performing. So the action will have a return value of void. That means when this action is performed, it doesn't return any value. But for it to perform its action, it requires a parameter, which is the amount. You want to credit an account, you must provide the amount you want to credit account with. So that's why we declare it as float. So when you say credit, void and float, the void is the return type. The first one is the return type, while the second one is the parameter type of the function or the method. So the next one is debit. Debit is also void. After debiting, you don't return anything. But before you debit, you must specify the amount you want to debit. So we have the return type of void, the parameter type of float. Then show details. When you want to show everything about the account, it's a function, it's a method. Yes, show the details of the account. You want to see the account name, account number, account type, and the balance. So such a function, it doesn't have a return value, and it doesn't also require any parameter. No parameter, no return value. It just displays all the attributes of that account. And finally, we also have a method called getBalance. GetBalance is a method that returns the balance of the account. It doesn't require any parameter, but yet it returns a return type of float. So looking at this is the code. Hash include IOStream using namespace standard. You see where we define the class account. That's the account name. Then after that, the access specifier. We declared access specifier for the methods. I mean for the properties, attributes. They are all private. String account name, string account number, string account type, and float balance. These are the attributes. They are all declared as private. Then after that, we go for the methods, which I declared all as public. So I declared public. Like we said before, the credit has no return type. The return type is void, but it accepts a float parameter, which we call amount. And what does it just do? It will just add the amount to the previous balance. That's why I'll say balance plus equals to amount. You know what that means? It means balance is equals to balance plus amount. So this all the credit function does, the credit method, just to add amount to the balance. It has no return type, return statement, because it is void. Then the next one is the debit. Debit also returns no value. That is why it is void. Then we have parameter float, which is called the amount. The amount is the parameter. Then you can't just debit. For instance, you want to take money from your account. Maybe you have 5,000, you want to take 10,000. It doesn't work. So before debit can take place, the system must be able to check whether the amount you want to withdraw is less than what you have. If it is less than what you have, you can withdraw, you can debit. But if it is not less than what you have, it will tell you insufficient balance. So that's why we have, if balance is greater than amount, greater than or equal amount, then balance is equals to balance minus amount. Else, tell the person insufficient balance. That is to say, if balance is not greater than or equal to amount, that means if balance is less than the amount the person wants to debit, it will report insufficient balance. Then after that, the next method, which is to show details. Show details. What does it do? It's also a void method. It returns no value. So, but all it does is just to display all the attributes of the account. So you see out, account name equals to account name, then account number, it displays it, account type, it displays, account balance, it displays. And finally, we have the get balance. All that the get balance does is to return the balance. So we'll say float get balance, it will now return the balance. I think this is just the class. Then the next thing is now to, from main, like I said, you can, if you run this program like this, it will not do anything, because the entry point of every program execution in C++ is the main function. So it's from the main function that we can create object of this class and begin to make use of the member methods to access the member attributes. So at this junction, I'm going to open up the IDE for C++, the code blocks, so that we can demonstrate this program. Okay, when it comes like this, you just create new projects. You look at console application. Yes, you will choose between C and C++. You choose C++. Give your project a name. You can call it bank project. Finish. Okay, so you go to the left hand corner of the ID. You see the project, bank project. Then there is a folder called sources. You open the folder by clicking the plus sign beside it. Then you will now see where to write your code. You see main.cpp. Just double click on main.cpp. Yes, by default, when you are using code blocks, the program will just come with a simple program, hello world. If you want to run this program, you just come here, you see build and run. See the symbol up here, build and run. You just click on it, it will just run and show you hello world. Beautiful. But that is not what we want to do. We are going to delete the hello world program, or we'll modify it. So I go down. The first thing we are going to do is to create the class. Remember we said the class, we called it what? Account. Class account. I hope I remembered all we said. You see, by default, you see that the IDE added semicolon at the end of my closing braces. So we said we have member methods and member properties. So the member properties, we said they are going to be private. So, and what are they? We said the first one is string account name, string account type, sorry, account number. Let me make account number the second one. String account type and string account okay, I think it's balance. Balance is not string, so it's float. Balance. Okay, after that we have the public access specifier for our methods, and we said our first method is credit, and we say it's going to be void credit. It has a parameter called amount, which is float. Be careful about the spelling. It is float. And what does it do? Just to say balance is equals to, let me just write it in full, balance plus amount. That's all the credit does. It's just to balance. Let me copy the code because it's almost the same thing with okay, and let me just write a fresh one. Void debit, also a float. It comes with a parameter amount, close brace. Then we said we have to check if balance is greater than or equal to amount. That is when you can actually debit. Amount, that is when you can debit. You say then balance is equals to balance minus amount. Else see out. That means if it is not less than, see out. Type insufficient balance. That's what your ATM normally tells you. Insufficient balance. End line is to move your whatever will display to the next line. So this is the end of the debit function or debit method. The next method is to show details. To show details. Show details. We said it has no parameter, so the parameter will be empty. All it does is to display the attributes. We have account name, ACN name, and okay, let me just copy this and paste and modify to save time. The next one is account type, account number rather, account number, there is account NO, Then next one is account type. Account type. Account type. Account type. Then the last one is the account balance. Balance. Right? I think these are the 4 attributes of the account object. So the show detail is just to display the values of all these attributes. Then the last one is the one to return or to get the balance. So we'll say float get balance. Get balance. It has no parameter, but it returns a value. And what does it return? Just the balance. So just return balance. So at this point, we are done with creating the class. We are done with creating the class. We are done with creating the class. Let me just separate this a bit. Okay, we're done with creating the class. The next thing now is let's go to the object and now consume this class. How do we create an object of a class? The same way we create data types, that's also how we create objects. In data type definition or declaration, you mention the data type name and then the name you want to give the variable. So in a way, creating a class is like creating a new data type. Creating a class. One thing about object-oriented programming is that it allows you to create more data types. See it that way. It allows you to create more data types. So when you create a class, it's assumed you have created a new data type, just like we have float, int, strings, and the rest of them. So now in this code, there is a new data type called account. So like we say int or float balance, we can also say account something. So let me just create an account called John account. So I will have to say account John account. By doing this now, John account is an object. It's now an account. John account has a name. John account can have a number, account number, account name, account type, and account and this thing. So let's try something about this private and public. Let me just say John account dot name dot acn name is equals to maybe John Momo. I haven't done that. Let me now say John account dot show details. Yes, a function, when you are calling a function method, it will always have open brackets and close bracket. If it has parameter, the parameters will enter, the argument or the value for the parameters will be inside the bracket. But when there is no parameter, you will just open and close it. So remember, our show details has no parameter. So that is why we are calling it to display these values for us. But let's see whether it's going to show us account name to be John Momo. I know it will not work. But let's see the error it will generate. There's a problem. Okay, first of all, there's a problem here. Float, I mistakenly write it as float. That's compilation error, it didn't work. So I correct that one. It's float, not float. Okay, let me do that again. There's a problem now. See? Where is the problem coming from? It's telling me, it's pointing line 38. It's pointing, let me see if I can view the logs. Let me see. I want to view the okay, I want to see the error messages, which it should have been showing me, but okay, okay, I think it's hiding down here. Let me raise it up. Okay, see, the error is telling me, look at the error message. It says string account name is private within this context. It's private. Because it's private, like I told you, we cannot access it outside the class. I told you guys that the class ended here on line 33. Line 33 is the end of the class. So anything you declare as private can only be accessed from the beginning of the class, which is line 5, and between line 5 and line 33. Outside line 5 and line 33, you cannot access anything declared as private. So let me go and change that to public. Let me go and change this to public. If I change it to public, I will now comment this other one, so that, because it's no longer needful. If I declare it as public, everything is public. So let me run the program again. Beautiful. You see that it has printed, it has shown the details. Account name John Momo, account number, because we did not provide account number. Account type, we did not also provide account type. Then account balance, a value is already coming up. Why is it so? It is so because in programming, when you declare a variable, it picks what we call a default initial value, and it's usually a very high value. So that is why when you are writing a program, it is always good to initialize every variable you create, especially numerical variable. It's always good to initialize it to a value. Many a time you can initialize it to 0, so that it doesn't give you a value that you don't have control over. So in our program, you are seeing that, yes, account name is John Momo, account number not available, account type not available, account balance, what we don't have control over, the default value for float, that is what is there. So you can see the idea of public and private. Because I declared account name, everything as public, that was why I was able to assign John Momo to account name, the attribute. But like I said, that is not the ideal thing. It's not the ideal thing. So I'm going to change it back to private and access it the proper way. I'll still change it to private and access it the proper way. So what is the proper way? What is the proper way? Wow, something is missing in our code. How do we assign account name, account number, account type to the program, to these values? There's no method that is going to do that. Credit will not do that. Debit will not do that. Show details will not do that. Wow. So what do? We have to now also create methods that can assign values to these attributes. So therefore, we're going to create another method. We call this thing set and getter method. Set method is a method you use to assign value to an attribute. So it's also void. You can say set name, a string, whatever name that is provided, account name. Let me just see AC name. So ACNT name is equals to account name, that is coming as as a variable at this time. So with this, we have set the name for account name. So we are going to duplicate this code for account type and also account number. So in this case, set number. So you can just say account number is equals to account number is equal to what? ACNT account, sorry, ACNO is, sorry, ACNO is equal to account number. Okay, then one more, account type, set type. Let's call it AC type. So account type is equal to AC type. Alright, good. We have more methods. Like I said, methods are usually what you use to modify or have access to the attributes. So because account name, account number, account type we are declared as private, there is no way we can assign value to them from outside the class. So we have to set a public method that we can use to assign values to them. So therefore, we know that credit affects balance, debit affects balance, but none of the methods actually affect account name, account number, account type. That's why we have to create these three new methods. Therefore now, having done that, we can now tell Mr. John account to set account name. John account dot set name is equals to John Momo. Just set name is not equal to be in bracket. Close the bracket. Good. Because it has a parameter, that's why it has to be like this. Then John account dot set number, the account number, maybe 0012345609, okay, or 0. Then the next is account type dot set type, maybe the savings account, savings. Alright, the next thing is to John dot credit the account. We want to credit it with 1 million. 1 million. Haven't done that. With this now, what have we done? We have credited, we have set name, we have set the account number, we have set the account type, and we have now set the credit. So let's run this program again and see what details it's going to give us. Beautiful. You can see now account name is John Momo, account number is 0012344740, account savings type is what they call it, savings. Then the account balance is 1 million, that is 1 raised power 06. That's 1 million. Maybe I will change the value to something lower so that it will come out fully. Let me just change it to 10,000 so that it will, okay, it's 10,000. All right, then let's continue now. Let's try John dot debit. I want to debit this account now. I want to debit it with 3,000. After we have debited, sorry, first of all, I want to debit it with 13,000. Let's see what it will show us. Remember, we said when the debit is more than the balance, it should show us insufficient balance. So the credit, we credited 10,000, we want to debit 13,000. Let's run the program and see. I think after the previous show details, the next statement in line 55 is to debit. What did it show us? Insufficient balance. Insufficient balance. So it showed us insufficient balance because it checked. But if we have just done debit 3,000 and come back again to say John account dot show details, so we will now see that the first value is going to be 10,000 after the first credit. Then the next show details in line 56 is going to show us 7,000 because it has debited it 3,000. Beautiful. Are you seeing the account number? The first one, show details. Okay. Then one of the methods we have not used here is let me not use this show details. Let me just say let me say balance. Sorry, let me declare a variable called float balance equal to John dot get balance. After that, I will say cout balance. Okay, balance, the balance that I just got from here. If you look at this code carefully, see what we are doing here. The first, in line 49, we created a class, an object of account class called John account. So John account is an object. So in line 50, we did, let's assign account name to the John account. John account was created, but it has no name, it has no number, it has no type, it has no balance. So we have to set these values. And to do that, I said we are going to use public methods so that we can have access to the attributes. So we created a method called setName, which will receive a string, which will be the name, and assign it to the account, the attributes, account name. That's here in line 12, void setName. It receives a name, which is a string, just like John Momo, and assign that name to the account name that is a member attribute. So that is what we did there. That's also what we did in set account number. We just said set number, we assign value. Set type, we also assign value. Then the next thing, we now credited the account with 10,000. After that, we view the details of the account, which will show us everything we have recorded so far. Then after that, we now decided to debit 3,000 from the account. So we say John account debit. It debited 3,000 from the account. Then we want to see the balance. We don't want to use show details, because if I say show details, it will display the account name, account type, account number, and everything. But I only want to see the balance. And I have a method called get balance. There's a method called get balance in line 42. The method called get balance returns the balance. So because of that, that's why I created a variable called balance, which is float, because the guy returns float. So I say float balance is equals to John account.get balance. So whatever the balance is assigned to balance. So when I want to now see the balance, I just say cout balance. Let me just separate it from the previous by putting this NL. NL means move to the next line. Move to the next line. So that is it. So I will run the program again. You'll see that the 7,000 will be separated from others. You see it here. So the account balance after credit was 10,000. The account balance after debit is 7,000. I think this is where I will stop for today. I want you to look at this program again, look at these things again, look at them again, try do it yourself, look at it again. We have created a class called account. We now created object of that class inside main. By the time I come to class or I do another video, I will expand on this. Thank you so much and God bless you. If you have any problem or any question why you are going through this, you can put that question as comment in the video. Thank you so much and remain blessed.